What is up, students? Welcome back to FAB School. I'm T.
And I'm Evan.
And this week we're going to talk about the results from United States Nationals, the European calling that happened this most recent weekend, where New ascended into Living Legend, and the 300 cards that were unbanned as a result.
T, what's your favorite card that got unbanned? Or that is getting unbanned on Friday?
I'm going to go with Blue Macho Grande.
That's a solid pick. I think I'm a Cranial Crush guy myself.
Actually, I changed my vote. My favorite card that got unbanned is Victor Goldmane.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Today, like I said, we're going to talk about what happened at U.S. Nationals. Our wheels kind of fell off. We didn't really have that great of a showing, but also I don't think any of the three of us were taking it all too seriously, unfortunately.
Dude, Nat's been there, done that, you know?
Yeah, been there, done that. It was won by our newest teammate, Majin Bey, on Verdance. He was playing like a full combo version as opposed to the Runaways version that's more focused on all the 3-for-7s. Calling in Europe was won by New, which gave New the last 50 points she needed. She was sitting at 952 and got over the line by 2 points. So New has achieved Living Legend and is no longer
finally
legal.
Gone.
Mist Veil, another set of LL points for Part the Mist Veil.
This is the last weekend that meme's probably gonna get posted.
No, because people are now posting the meme where it's like the Part the Mist Veil logo in the heroes, but then Gravy's in the background of it. Because he's another blue-centric hero.
He gets abnormally good blues, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, he's basically a Part the Mist Veil hero.
You want to get into the tier list?
Yeah, another thing that we're going to do is this tier list for a post-New world and like the upcoming national season for other countries. Before we get into the tier list, let's talk about like actual results from U.S. Nationals. Jacob Shaker is somebody that I played against during the Swiss, and he ended up getting second place on Gravy, so he was the first person to get a full top 8 in Constructed with Gravy. His list was very interesting. He didn't have any like snags, but also it's like week 1-ish Gravy, like week 0.5 Gravy. So there's definitely a core to be built upon, but it showed that hero is playable, where I think there was a big expectation that the hero might not be playable, even though, I think that expectation arose because of how polarizing some of his matchups are. Like Syndra is very hard, Prism is very hard.
I mean, I think you got them. Those were the two that were really hard, which was Prism and Syndra.
I guess it's
Fi too, but I don't really
anything that plays
deck.
like those. Anything that plays like Prism or Syndra, right? That's the concept. Where you like hitting matters a lot, and not hitting heroes, just hitting in general. So like Syndra takes advantage of using things like Mask of Momentum to just attack the allies and regain card advantage. So it doesn't cost them as much to be killing the allies. In fact, sometimes it's more beneficial that they get to kill the allies. And you put the onus on the Gravy player to be like, all right, how many allies are you going to dedicate to the board when I just have the capability to do this, right? Prism, you don't have to hit a hero for a Herald to go to Soul, so you can just attack the allies with Heralds, and then you kill any of their allies with a Herald, basically, because even Humperdinck with 7 health, like your Heralds with 7 health, as long as they don't have a Sawbones, then...
And even then, like, if they don't have allies out, they don't have a ton of poppers, they have a lot of no blocks, like, your Heralds are probably going to hit a lot of the time anyway.
Yeah, so you're going to develop, like, a big Soul to be able to get a ton of good Erudition turns, or, like, force them into awkward lines where they're having to kill your Erudition. You get very good value turns as Prism against Gravy, and that's part of the problem. But even with that said, I think that some of the viewers might be surprised about our tier list after we get to the end of it. We made the tier list before the pod today so that we could make sure we were both on the same page with things, and then we're just going to discuss it as we put them up. So let's get right into that. Let me pull this up here so that you can see it on the recording. That way you can see the visual. We have 6 tiers. We have the best, which is our S tier, A, B, C, and D, and then fucking don't, which is the equivalent of F tier. This is the for vibes only. So, filling it out, we're going to go ahead and just put the fucking don't tier up immediately. There's not much discussion to be had here. It's heroes that you should not register under any circumstances other than wanting to have a good time because you enjoy these heroes. And thankfully, it's only 9 heroes. It's
honestly, we could probably move Riptide up too. I think. I think Riptide might be good. Didn't he top 8'd one of the CC Battle Hardened at US Nats?
Yeah, he sure did. Everybody knows that United States Battle Hardens are the peak of competitive Flesh and Blood.
Maybe he deserves a call up, you know.
All right, fine. We'll move him to D.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
All right. So we've got 8 heroes in the fucking don't tier, and it's Betsy, Olympia, Rhinar, Teklo, Azuri, Original Arachne, Original Bravo, and Max Nitro. Is there anything else here that's like crazy besides like, moving Riptide to D?
Not really a whole lot to say. These heroes kind of suck. I think like some are certainly worse than others, and I would put like a couple of them in like fringe playable, but there's just so many better options in the same class even that there's just no reason to.
Yeah, like Azuri can win a tournament. Bravo, maybe. Max, maybe. Max technically had the best numbers from US Nats.
That's cursed. Like Rhinar can hit like a solid matchup spread, and then
there was one Max player at US Nats. They went 7-2 in constructed, so there might be a real Max deck, or they just got like very good polarizing matchups. It's tough to say either way, but I don't think that deck is generally playable. So I'm comfortable putting it in the don't tier. If you're the Max player and you see this pod, drop a comment, and maybe we'll do like a little segment talking about Max, you know?
What were you cooking, please?
Let us in the kitchen, brother, please. Moving on to D tier, we've obviously placed Riptide there because of, like you mentioned, it's had a couple of top 8 results. I think it was the undefeated hero at the end of day 1 for the European calling that happened last weekend as well.
Hold on, I gotta fact check this real quick.
I think they only had 6 rounds on day 1.
No, they had 7.
They had 7. Okay.
I know a Syndra wins 7 now, and I would also like. I give that hero more respect than I should.
There was a 6-0 Riptide at one point at that calling.
Yeah, he finished. Yeah, he was 4th seed, which is kind of crazy. All right, Riptide, he's locking up his D tier slot. Honestly, is he making an argument for C?
No, stop. All
right, my bad.
I'm not moving him again. Let's fill out the rest of D tier. We have Bolton, Katsu, my girl, and Nick's girl.
Katsu, he needs like give him 6 more bonds. I think he'll be something.
Give him yellow bonds. Give him 3 more bonds. Give him 3 bonds at a time until we break him
test
again.
The water.
Yeah. Maybe this hero's not broken without Art of War, you know? Maybe we can give him 9 bonds and he's still fine.
He probably isn't.
Isn't fine or isn't broken?
Probably isn't broken with 6 bonds.
He probably isn't broken with 9.
Yeah, I don't think it would be.
Katsu's another good contender for fighting Gravy because you get to use all of your effects whenever you hit an ally. So it's like...
Yeah, the on-hits are nice, and even then, like, just not necessarily, like, your on-hits happening, just having Kodachis are, like, a very good way to kill allies.
Yeah.
Like, I think Rigor Mortis is probably one of the most powerful ones in the Gravy deck.
And dying to a kunai or a Kodachi is, like, kind of massive.
It's pain, yeah.
Yeah. Bolton, that's Roger's dog. Nimby Bolton, unfortunately still not good.
Bolton's probably the best. Like, this version of Bolton might be the best he's probably ever been.
That's not true. Combo Bolton, before they printed Frostbite token, was definitely the best that Bolton has ever been.
No outside factors, bro. Just his card pool, you know.
Oh, sure. I mean, by that logic, every hero from 2019 is still applicable to that now. It doesn't mean they're playable, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Dash IE, they shot Count Your Blessings, and Hanabi Dash is not great, I don't think. So, probably
These
not
mechs,
cooking.
they need high octane.
Yeah. Yep. Look at these mechs in D and F tier. Come on, LSS. Give us high octane back.
Please.
They kind of did give us high octane back because we've got like a Living Legend being a real format coming up. That stupid Sam Sutherland pile is definitely just a good deck in Living Legend, so.
I think Dio's in like a weird middling spot compared to the LL heroes, because like I don't think she's as broken as like some of the like first 2 year heroes. But I think with high octane, she's probably better than any of the heroes currently out.
Dash IE or Dash IO?
IO.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I wouldn't play IE.
I want mech to be playable. That's all I want.
I want mech to be playable too. Hence why I played at US Nats. A man can dream.
Dory is D tier for all builds, I think. Dawnblade, Hatchets, Decimator, anything. It's like all bad right now.
I think Hatchets is somewhat reasonable. These warriors, like especially the two-handed warriors, I think they have a pretty decent time in the gravy, and your matchup's like pretty good.
The two one-handed warrior decks, you mean?
Fang too. There's like Kasai, Dory, Hatchets, and Fang.
Yeah. C tier, we've got a couple of new heroes. We've got Marlin, Puffin, Levia, and Dash IO. Puffin is another like mech problem. This deck does a better job of not fatiguing itself, I think, because the attacks are like better statted. And starting with half a card draw in play with Polycranka is really powerful. Getting that potential multiple turn draw, you like pose the question to your opponent, but it kind of has the same problem where like if it's a deck that doesn't mind clearing an ally, it's kind of pain. A lot of decks like have to do really weird lines to kill the Polycranka, and they have to do it. But the value that it gains you even in those matchups is not enough to justify playing a mech without high octane.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like, the Palantir Aeronaut is, like, kind of a broken card, but you have to play all these, like, do-nothing cards to enable your Majestics to be good.
Yeah, which is also pain. Dio, we tried multiple versions. We tried, like, an all-in cogs. We tried, like, regular boost Dio. We tried a bunch of different builds for Dio, and it ended up being what you and Jacob registered for Nationals. I was not feeling the vibe with Dio. Originally, we were pushing for like the cog Dio for Nats, and then you guys just went back to like a regular boost Dio, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. The cog deck is certainly a lot of fun. I think that's just Dio in general, though. But I kind of just realized eventually, like, the cogs don't really do much. I'd rather just have like more boost cards and hope to cast Max V. I think Dio is like can win a tournament. You just need to have the top card of your deck be nice to you.
Yeah, Dio is definitely like a Sunrun hero, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
If your tournament is if you're already destined to win the tournament, play Dio.
You'll commit war crimes. It's messed up sometimes. But the other side of the coin is like 3 items, no boost card,
and dying to like random
crank, pass. Yeah. Getting fatigued by like decks that are like half 2 blocks, and you just question your life choices.
Yeah, that is actual pain. Marlin, we had a bunch of Marlin enjoyers, but nothing ever came of it. We tried Death Dealer Marlin, we tried Cannon Marlin, we tried a bunch of different builds of those two things. We tried Dreadbore Marlin, we tried so many different versions of this hero.
I like the Death Dealer deck, but I think the conclusion that I at least came to, and I think Jacob did as well, going into US Nats, was like, it's kind of just a worse Azalea.
Yeah.
Like, Red Ledger is a broken enough card that I think
If you want to play a ranger, play the good ranger cards. You know, you're already hindering yourself by playing ranger.
I mean, Marlin has other good ranger cards that you get by like registering it instead of Azalea. I just don't think they do as much heavy lifting as Red and Ledger does.
Yeah.
And also, like, the 7-card hand New Horizon thing is pretty broken.
Yeah, but again, in the current meta, that's like such a fucking reach. I think at least. The people love posting these stupid Marlin combos. I've seen like at least 20 different Facebook Reels or YouTube Shorts.
No, dude. As soon as they bust out like the little infographic with the exact cards you need to have on top and like what you draw off the rear card, I'm just like, I scroll, bro.
Yeah, I watch them because it's like, all right, let's waste 2 minutes of my life while you tell me a 72 card combo. Like, all right, let's see it.
Speaking of wasting time in your life, Levia. Picture this.
Yeah.
Dying to blood debt after playing a 25-minute game up to that point. And being in a good position, too. And losing it all.
All right, I'm going to leak something here.
You're leaking something? What are you leaking?
I'm going to be a little bit of a leaker. I'm going to read I'm going to read 2 excerpts from our team Discord. June 3rd, 2025, 11:36 a.m. Michael Yesker. This hero is still cursed. Yesterday, June 16th, at 9:14 p.m. Michael Yesker. I'm back, and I cannot be saved.
In a similar fashion, I also have an excerpt from one of our teammates, Mr. Nick Butcher. He said, "Save your boy," at 10:46 Monday. I responded, "What you mean?" And he sent me a screenshot of Jacuzzer saying he's going back to LA. So, unfortunate to hear that. I hope we don't have to cut this part out.
We definitely don't. That's Stan. That's Stan. Yeah. B tier, we actually have a little bit of discussion here now. So, B tier, let's start with Vincent.
Oh, all right. Vincent? Hot take, everyone. Actually, this is like a lukewarm take, I think. Vincent, Shadow Dio.
Shadow Dio. Not much more to it. Sometimes you get to commit war crimes. But honestly, in a very similar fashion to Dio, if your opponent kind of has like a solid game plan into you, you get rinsed, and it's pain. But I did think we had to move it up in our tier list because it top 8'd the calling this weekend with 2 copies in the top 8, in fact. So maybe that means something, but I'm not putting too much weight into it. Yeah, I mean, I can get behind Shadow Dio analysis. More in beats here. We've got KO. That's my other dog. This deck might be good.
Sorry to hear that.
This deck might be good with Sea Legs. Sea Legs definitely. I think that this hero is up to B tier from probably like C or D tier before High Seas. But B is like maxing
I'd give you that. I think also as like the meta slows down and decks get worse, KO stocks go up.
And as more prisms show up.
That's true. I will say, don't let this psyop you though, because like sometimes the KO lists are built in such a way that they don't have a lot of like 6s or like 7s, and you can get cooked against the prism with no popper.
That's true. These decks that play like infinite 5s and just like turn them into 6s.
Yeah, dude. You gotta put some respect on Prism's name, you know.
Yeah. KO, another thing that it has going for it is that it does have a very reasonable wizard matchup, or it has the potential to have a very reasonable wizard matchup with things like No Fear.
Yeah, No Fear is pretty sick. And even then, like, the way that KO presents damage, like, you can, like, rip off 2 4-card 15s in a row, and, like, your Kano opponent's kind of cooked if they don't have, like, an early combo.
Yeah, it's got a reasonable Verdance matchup, too, because it, like, does damage better, and it does protection against Arcane.
Checks out, you got a reasonable number of blues, so.
reasonable number of blues, reasonable ways to pay into AB, good AB armor, Skullhorn AB2, plus a null piece. You suddenly have AB3, plus no fear if we get into like the combo stuff. You'll probably kill them before they can full combo you. It's just kind of nice. This deck is like nice, but it's not great. And again, it's another deck where you're at the mercy of your deck. KO is another Sun Run deck, in my opinion.
You know who's hyping this deck up recently? To me? Sam Dando.
Oh. Little drip drop KO action?
Perhaps, dude. He was trying to sell me on the rums.
Dude, it's nice. If you haven't played it yet, you got to give it some games. Rum KO, whew, it's nice.
Dude, rum KO makes me want to like attend Alcoholics Anonymous, bro.
Oh no.
Hate that hero. Speaking of heroes I hate, next up, Vicky G.
Victor Goldmane in the B tier. Another hero from heavy hitters that is probably up to B from like C or D tier. This hero is definitely unbanned with
he
with
moved up
new
like
being gone.
two tiers from just new like not existing anymore come Friday.
One thing that I said the entirety of News Life that people thought that I was stupid for saying is that people don't realize how much of an impact new had on deck building incidentally.
I mean, like, look at Jarl decks. You just physically couldn't build, like, a good Jarl deck.
Yeah, because you had to play all these, like, shitty blues, shitty random element 2 blocks, because they were, in quotes, better.
Just to not get farmed by new. It's crazy.
Yeah. And now new's gone, and Guardian is legal again. So, we'll see where the wind takes us, you know?
I think it's in B. You got some solid matchups as we move up in the tier list. I think
you get cooked by S tier. That's the big problem with this hero.
But you kind of cook almost everything in the A tier. I would say outside of Kano and probably Florian seems a little suspicious, but yeah. You're honestly like one of the few decks I think that are like actually playable that can boast a good Prism matchup.
I think the worst thing for Prism was new going away.
Perhaps.
It unlocked all these like random bullshit popper matchups now.
I agree with that, but I still think they're kind of a little medium. Like I think losing to the two like quote unquote S tier decks in our tier list probably is not a spot you want to be in.
Yeah, hence B tier, which is like fine. Next up in B tier, we've got Fang. This is a interesting deck for sure to say the least. I enjoyed Fang a lot more whenever it was like the Fatigue Fang, the Decimator Fang, because
you're kind of
just such a meme, such a good meme.
I think Fang is actually pretty reasonable. You got like a good gravy matchup. I think you have a pretty respectable matchup into the Earth heroes. I can't confirm this on my own, but credible sources told me you got a good assassin matchup. So.
You get to the 3 fealties, and you get so much good math as well, which is nice, but sometimes you got to jump through so many hoops to get there with, like, terrible math turns leading up to it. So, I mean, it has its trade-offs. It's a very reasonable deck, I think, at its core.
Yeah, that's fair.
Next up, we're going to kind of speed up a little bit. We've got Phi in B tier. Not a million things to say about Phi. It's like, it's just
he's like
Syndra.
Kind of just worse. Yeah, it's like worse Syndra, to be honest.
Yeah. You jump through more hoops to get the value that you get with your built-in hero powers. So, if you're going to play a Draconic Ninja, just play Syndra. Don't play Phi.
He can hit a clean offensive overlap, though, I will say.
That is true. Speaking of clean offensive overlap, Slippy. Throw Slippy in the mix in B tier.
Yeah, Slippy's kind of solid. I don't know. I think he's like a tier worse than Arachne Marionette. But I do think like being able to play more aggressive in certain matchups is an upside for sure.
Unironically, I think that the best build of Slippy right now is probably involving toxicity.
You know, I want to hate on that, and I really do, but I feel like I just haven't seen much shelter from the storm around recently. So
Yeah, and like new is a big reason to play Shelter of the Storm. So if the stonks on that card go down, then like your other assassins get slightly better.
that's completely fair. I still don't know if I believe that, but I think Slippy's pretty reasonable. You get to play Bonds of Agony and all the good assassin cards,
You
and
get
when
to
you
play
draw them in the right
Nimby.
order, it's broken.
You get to play Nimby Slippy.
Is that real?
It might be. You start with like some random stealth attack, and then you play a Nimby, and then you arsenal the Nimblism. It's good math.
You broke the format.
Next up in B tier, we have Ira.
Ira?
It's ninja.
It's just, yeah, it's kind of mid too.
Hence B tier. Like nothing's changed about Ira since they banned Zephyr Needle. So like this hero is just like continuously aggressively mid. It's like the same vibes as Fi.
Yeah, it's not particularly bad, I'll say, but I don't know if I'd ever roll up to a tournament with this one.
Yeah. Speaking of, I don't know if I'd roll up to a tournament with it. We have Acilio.
Yeah, that deck can go Giga, and I think it probably has like a much more respectable matchup spread than the new is left. But it scares me. I'm scared of it. There's a lot of no blocks, and I think it's kind of hard to hit the full ceiling on, you know?
We have a lot of Sunrun decks on the tier list right now, and I think Acilio adds to that number, where like if things line up for you in Acilio, this deck can go crazy. At London, I had an Acilio hit me for like 140 something in the first few turns of the game when I was playing Aurora. So like sometimes that deck just goes crazy. But when it doesn't, and your hand is like 4 no blocks, and they send like a CNC or something, and you're like, oh, not only does my hand not function, but also I'm taking 6 and losing my only card that did function, that feels miserable.
It oftentimes feels like draw gone in a flash simulator.
Draw gone in a flash, arsenal gone in a flash, wait for good gone in a flash hand, and then if you get blown up in the meantime, you just kind of die.
Yeah.
That concludes B tier, so let's move on to A tier, starting with Syndra.
I hate this deck so much, but it's got a good gravy matchup, and I think it's got a good Verdance matchup. So I gotta put some respect on its name. But
Syndra's a deck that gets worse if you know how to play against it. But like if you play against a gravy as Syndra, it doesn't matter if they know how to play against it because
you just play out your hand and they kind of die.
Yeah, because if they are doing
clear
that,
eyes
then
with 0 effort, it's a freebie. And I don't know. Truthfully, my dislike from Syndra stems from I feel like a lot of the times you can't block very easily, and blocking is just pain of the deck, and I don't like that. So.
Yep.
Also, I feel like you
Syndra
need your
A.
math momentum to hit at some point in the game to ever outvalue a lot of the other decks in the format. So, Syndra A, because people won't let you hit math momentum a lot of the time.
Yep, that's where it gets worse if they know what they're doing is not letting Mask hit. Obviously, Mask is really good. Also A tier, Jarl, another hero that was unlocked by the new ban in many ways. Jarl had a pretty reasonable moment right after Aurora died and before everybody figured out OTK Florian. I think there was like a reasonable 1 to 2 week window for Jarl.
I'd agree. Sure.
But it was just during like what, an RTN season or something?
Yeah, ProQuest.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Now, Jarl gets to play good cards with good blues, which could be a contending factor for the meta. The only problem is that it doesn't have a particularly good matchup into the 2 S tier decks. So another reason that it maybe should be B tier, but I think it does better into all of the other A and B tier decks.
And I also think someone in the comments will probably say, you blow up the compass against Gravy. It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
They have so many ways to make rum and get extra action points that eventually they'll just flood the board. and you still lose.
Yeah, that strategy is not real. Blowing up the compass does not matter 90% of the time.
I mean, I think it's your only real strategy, to be honest. Like, I think it's part of a winning game plan into Gravy, but I think you're just so cooked in that matchup that it's not going to matter.
Yeah. Yep. Next A tier hero, Prism.
She's got super polarized matchups. Prism, in a similar way to Gravy, has a lot of very polarizing matchups. You kind of run over a lot of stuff that doesn't have a lot of poppers and aren't very defensive. And into the decks that do have poppers and are defensive, it can be an uphill battle.
Prism does have a good matchup into the aggro decks, though. Like, even things like Syndra, Prism is, like, favored. And
you,
then,
roll Syndra.
Yeah, you have a good Kano matchup. You, like, are 95-5 into Kano or something ridiculously close to 100-0.
Never seen a Prism lose to Kano, so...
I have beat Prisms as Kano before, but I've never beat a good Prism as Kano before.
Checks out. Speaking of Kano, next up on our tier list.
Yeah, put him in A tier. Nothing crazy. He's Kano.
Yeah, I mean, Kano's just good. Not really a lot to it. Aether Wildfire's messed up. You have to respect it in your decks or else you'll lose. And even if you are respecting it, sometimes they'll still kill you.
And he's the secret hero that got new cards in high seas.
Yeah, the extra potions are kind of messed up, to be honest.
Getting energy potion number 4 and...
Yeah, EPOT number 4 is, I think, very cooked. Because I think, like, the amount of games where you're kind of just hoping that your Kano blinding works with, like, 0 EPOTs versus 1 is probably, like, you probably win 25% more games with 1 EPOT out.
And just the ability to see more EPOTs early before you start to combo more often. Like, having more EPOTs out.
It's so good.
Also, the amulet that gives you an intellect is nice.
I haven't seen much technology on that one, but I bet it's probably pretty good when you're trying to stack against people. But I'm only a year 2 wizard, so...
If you know that you're going to be comboing off the next turn, like if you're IPing a Blazing Aether and already have a Wildfire, you just pop it and go to 5. That way, it kind of makes up for if you draw like a red in your hand. So like normally, you know you're going to combo off. You like IP a Blazing and have a Wildfire on deck. You draw up and you draw like red, blue, blue, and you're like, I might not be able to combo now. But if you have 5 intellect and you draw like red, blue, 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 then basically it was just half an EPOT. It gave you an extra red, which is fine. And then in the best of case scenarios, where then you're drawing 4 blues and extra have a Blazing, you just got an extra Kano activation. So it's like mega EPOT. So it's just, it's another version of like Tunic activation or EPOT. Also, Old Knocker as a chest for the aggro matchups and not having to play the AB1 instant make a mana thing is also nice. Because you can like block.
Squeeze an extra card out of someone's hand, which is really give me the difference between winning and losing, you know?
Yeah, if you're at 3 and they send 3 go again and you block with Old Knocker, then they have to play another card. And if they try to break the chain now, you still get priority, so you can just float the mana in response, and then they still have to give you another card or pass.
Yeah, it's a solid upgrade.
Yep, it's very nice. More in A tier, we have Azalea. This was one of your front runners for a choice for U.S. Nationals deck, yeah?
It was. I don't know why I didn't play it. I definitely should have. I will say I really like Azalea, but I do think some of your aggro matchups a lot of times feel like draw, run the Ledger Simulator. And I'm not in love with that, but I will say I really like the Codex of Inertia builds. It feels like pot of greed a lot of the times.
Yeah, taking the free card plus setting your opponent off of Arsenal so you know that they're not going to have D-Reacts in Arsenal is quite nice.
And then you get the Ponder. It's like, it's broken.
Yeah, multiple cards for 1 card and sometimes minus card value for your opponent. Sometimes it ends up being like a 1 card, 3 or 4 cards return, which is super nice.
I think Azalea doesn't deserve the S tier though, just because you have a wonky Gravy matchup. It can be hard for you to kill allies. I know a lot of these decks these days are on like 3 Falcon Wing and Ravenous Rabbles, which I've played and am playing. And I think it's solid into Gravy, but I feel like a lot of the times they can still just overwhelm you.
Yeah. and they just deal incidental damage. They have access to 6 command and conquer effects. They have like so many different ways to interact with you in a meaningful way. Next on A tier, we have Arachne Marionette. This is the best assassin now that Nu is dead. I think that for a while, Arachne has been putting up some reasonable results. The dagger-centric builds of Mario are probably better than your attack-centric builds of Mario, just because they're good math, good on-hits, things like Saber Bloodshed, the Mark
It's
and
a lot
Hal
harder
card.
to break, too, when you are on the dagger plan. Like, I feel like when you have the Graphene Chelicera out, regardless of, like, how, like, all attack reaction to block heavy your, like, all red hand is, you can still present, like, a 4-card 12 and not be like super upset with it.
This hero would probably be S tier if transforming was optional.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure.
And it would like definitely be S tier if you could roll and then decide.
Yeah, see what you get and then back out.
Yeah.
A little insurance, that'd be kind of broken.
If that was real, this hero would definitely be S tier and probably would have been S tier the whole time since it came out. But obviously, this is a wishful world, and that's not what exists, so Arachne lives, for now, in the A tier.
Not a blessed timeline. Next up in A tier. Did we talk about Dilks' girl yet?
We have not, and I think it's time.
Kasai. I think Kasai's kind of nice.
She's making a comeback.
She's making a comeback. She didn't really get, like, a ton from the new set outside of the generic gem.
Yeah, that is big enough.
Hold on, that's one card. That's one card. It's not like...
That's a ton.
It's a ton. I'll give you that. I will in some matchups. It's a ton. Probably maybe in all matchups. It's a ton.
In the matchups where it matters, that card is a ton. It's like this gives you a consistent way to make gold against the decks that want to block out. So it gives you your end game Raisin army.
Dude, write out the
Very
contract. Well. It's broken.
Busted. Other than that, just playing a deck that can play Valiant Dynamo right now is nice.
A good gravy matchup. Like I said, these two-handed warriors, or these one-hand weapon warriors, very good into gravy.
Yeah. And to finalize our A tier, we have Florian. Not dead after the Germinate ban and the OTK ban.
Certainly worse, though.
Certainly worse, but not that much worse. This deck is still playable. Having another new Earth 3 block that sometimes has more text than Germinate did is kind of nice. He puts up a little bit of results. It's just not crazy. Florian's going to be like a stock mid-range deck probably until it leaves the format.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He feels very strongly mid, but you get to play Felling the Crown and Plowender, and those cards are broken, so...
Yeah. And for S tier, I'm going to give you the reins for S tier because you have a better grasp than I.
All right, let's go Verdance first, just because I was just talking about Felling in the Crown. Felling the Crown, it's broken. But to be honest, I don't really think that's the whole story with why Verdance is now one of the best decks in format. I think the 4th healing potion really makes a big difference, along with that new expansion slot Earth card. I believe it's Everbloom Life, right?
I think so, yeah.
That one, I'll say, doesn't make the biggest difference. A lot of the times will feel like a titanium bauble roll, but you see it like coming up big in certain spots, like Imogen's top 4 game against the new. He ended up winning because he was able to put back another non-attack action to be able to leak like another arcane or something.
I think he looped Everbloom Lives.
Broken.
Earth blue 3 block with the instant ability to gain a life is very good for Verdance. It's much better for Verdance than it is for Florian. Doesn't have a lot of text in Florian besides putting back things like Arcane Seeds, which is also fine, but sometimes you incidentally mess yourself up because of Reaping Blade and not being able to do that. Verdance, gain a life, deal a damage, put a card back. Very nice.
One thing I forgot to mention earlier from the news says, I think Burn Bear is actually a pretty big pickup. Like, it's a juicy spell, and I think it slightly improves your Prism matchup as well.
Yeah.
I think the format's definitely slowed down too, which has helped Verdance do well. Just because like the combo is so inevitable, and it's a lot easier now to hit like a mini combo. Now that there's 4 healing potions.
Sure. Like, just sending a Surgent for 15, 16, probably going to be good enough as long as you follow it up with another spell for 15 or 16. Or even
And
just,
I
like,
a lot of the
hitting them
times
for 15 or 16. Sometimes good enough.
they're playing like Moon these days, I think, into most matchups.
Yeah.
So,
You don't get to
and
mini
also,
combo there, but
I mean, like, even then, you can just, like, play one big spell.
yeah.
I just meant playing a Rampant Growth and popping some number of healing cards.
Yeah,
But
which is
also,
still nice.
one big pickup, too, that has even happened after US Nats was, like, a new LLing. I think new LLing will, like, really let Verdance shine.
Verdance was probably already the best deck after US Nats, and now new is gone. Like, just give me even more
Which
points.
was, like, apparently your worst matchup. So, Verdant's broken, but also, let's talk about my favorite deck in the format now. Mr. Gravy Bones. Playing Fellas is just broken. You get to play Fellas, you get to look at the top card of your deck so often. You get card advantage just because you get to put guys in the graveyard and then play them later.
That's what it is. That's why you like this hero, is because you get to play like Dio and look at the top card of your deck. I figured it out.
Oh my god.
Couldn't put my finger on it, but now we figured it out.
Oh, I just think the playstyle is neat. I mean, I played Dromai before. It's got a lot to like about it. There's some disruption in there. And like, I don't know. Have you casted a Humperdinck?
I have.
It's broken.
Have you ever cast 2 in the same turn and attacked with them?
I haven't, but you want to know where the gravy interest like stem from? It's from Sealed, bro. I played him in Sealed, and I was like, oh my god, this deck's broken. Gotta try him out in CC. So, here we are. But let me not be biased. I actually do think Gravy's good, and obviously he's like backed it up with recent results. He top 8'd the recent calling in Italy this weekend. He got second at US Nats.
I think that this will be a hero that people continue to build upon for the entirety of its lifetime in Constructed. Originally, we thought that this hero was going to be unplayable for the sake of people of LSS wanting casuals to have access.
What more can you say? He made Syndra good. Deck's gotta be broken.
Gravy made Syndra great again, huh?
Let's calm down. Syndra was never great.
I don't know, man. You go to Memphis?
I did not.
What do you know about CNC Pummel?
No comment.
But, like I was saying, I think Gravy's going to continue to be built upon for the entirety of his duration in Classic Constructed, and I think that there are even builds right now that exist that people were not even close to for US Nats. It's possible that some of them get found out as we get more of the national season that fills out, that we see lists that are closer to what I imagine end lists for Gravy will look like, but I think that a lot of people have not figured out a lot of the ups and downs for Gravy yet. So, it's possible that we don't get any of those lists, at least to the public, from competitive teams that have maybe figured it out, or competitive players that have maybe figured it out, until Singapore, or maybe even Worlds.
Yeah, that honestly wouldn't surprise me. I'm sure for a lot of these Nats coming up, I bet if someone does find like a broken Gravy deck, they might not play it at their Nats and end up saving it for Singapore. So
a lot of the Nats that are left are like the 100-person or less nationals, so it matters a little bit less. And so anybody who's playing in those that might have actually broken it will probably save it for Singapore or Worlds.
100%. And like you see it too, even with like not even like making big strides, but last Pro Tour, we wanted to go to that team battle harden in Milwaukee. But it was so close to PT that it just wasn't worth like.
It wasn't worth leaking.
Wasn't worth leaking. Even if it was nothing crazy, you know.
Yeah. So this looks like a very well-rounded tier list to me. This is what I expect for the rest of national season and probably every event leading up to Singapore. I don't think we have any major changes before Singapore.
Azalea might leave. I would probably guarantee it, to be honest.
Yeah, so like a couple of minor changes, but nothing like crazy. Like Azalea leaving doesn't unlock. Don't even hit me with that. Why you gotta hate?
My bad.
Why you gotta hate?
Sorry.
Dash IE will live forever. But even if Dash IE and Azalea both leave, they don't unlock as much in the format as New did, right?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure what like pressure Azalea even really puts on the format.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's a well-rounded hero. It's a good hero. It's A tier, but it's not a pressure point where it's keeping something out, and it's not a pressure point where like its existence is making something else really good. So,
Well, it kind of suck that Death Dealer leaves and might close some doors for Marlin, but they weren't really open in the first place.
right. We were just talking about like changes to a C tier hero to put Marlin further down, like D tier. But all right, as we wrap up this pod, you owe me one thing. You owe me a 3-minute rant about some hero in Flesh and Blood. Or some bad beat that you took at Nationals. You owe me a 3-minute rant of some kind. Okay, pause. Have you ever watched like the World Series of Poker like vlogs that some of the people do?
Yes, I have. I'm a big fan of like Mr. Brad Owen.
Okay. Have you seen Daniel Negreanu's World Series of Poker vlog?
I have watched his before.
Are you familiar with his bit with Alan Kessler?
Yes.
What's bothering you today, Evan?
All right, not really gameplay related, but dude, I've been trying to buy Unchiefs for the past like week maybe, just because I want to play like Kasai at locals or something, or at least have the ability to. And I've gotten like 6 messages about Unchiefs, or about just my posts about them in general, involving Kasai. And I've purchased 0. 0 people have offered one to sell to me. But why? It's pain, honestly.
TradingCardGamePlayer.com.
Yeah, so actually that's what I did right before we recorded this podcast, was I just bought them.
You're trying to terrorize Armory and people won't let you. This is bullshit.
Man, I know, dude. I guess I'll just terrorize it on Gravy instead.
Oh, it got better.
So,
I think that's going to wrap it up for today's pod. I hope you enjoyed this tier list informational episode, and maybe you got something from it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us. Let us know that you support the content that we're making and the discussions that we're having about the game. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below in the comments. We'll be happy to answer. I love responding to comments, especially ones where people are like, hey, really enjoyed the episode, or when people have a question about something that we talked about in the episode but didn't go super in-depth on. Feel free to ask in the comments. Evan and I are happy to answer questions, pod-related, game-related, whatever.
I'll do my best to respond. Like always, thank you for watching, and class is dismissed.